Hi, my name is Bob Berg. Today I'm going to show you how to put together one of our Thunderbird Atlatl Dart Kits. What you get in the kit is a package like this. It has 3 feathers, it has a point, it has some thread, and an instruction sheet, and you'll get a dart shaft like this. These are the things that you're going to need that don't come in our kit. You're going to need some sandpaper. This is 100 grit. You're going to need ferrule tape and a pair of pliers to hold the dart point. You need a tube of school glue or some kind of white glue. Elmer's glue works. You need some linseed oil. You need a rag soaked in linseed oil. You need some small scissors, and you need a larger pair of scissors, and you need a propane torch. The first step in making any dart kit is to make sure that the dart is nice and straight. And usually these raw shafts, when they come right out of the package, are a little crooked. You have to heat them up with a propane torch and straighten them out. The straighter you get them, the better it is. Well, I'll just start at this end here. I'll heat about this much of it up and straighten that portion out first. I'm just eyeballing down the dart and making sure it's nice and straight. I singed this a little bit on purpose. I like the color that it brings out in the wood. Okay, so I've got the dart straightened now. It looks good. It has a nice grain. You can see how the heat developed the grain a little bit. The next step is to sand the dart. So I'm going to take my 100 grit sandpaper. I've got it folded over in thirds, and I'll just fold it right around the dart like this and sand it very lightly. You don't have to do a lot of really rugged sanding on this because they're already pretty much sanded, but you want to get the roughness off caused by the heating of the dart. And the next step after this is to put the linseed oil on it. So the next step is to prepare the feathers. I'll set the dart aside for a moment. And here are the feathers. I usually start with a pair of scissors in one hand and the feathers in the other. I like to make sure that the feathers are nice and clean. Sometimes feathers come with a little bit of extra stuff here that you have to clean off. I like to clean that off first. I like to pull this little excess off here. It doesn't get sanded in the sander, so you have to pull it off. And a lot of times that part doesn't get used in your fletching, but if you clean it off first, you're sure that it won't get accidentally put in under the fletching. So I've lined these 3 up like this, and this is very important. You always stick the point of the scissor through like this, so that you only cut the quill. Don't cut across the feather like this. That, you know, if you cut it just square like this, you cut across the feather, and it's particularly important on the back. And if you want to measure this, I often will measure from this point to where I cut the back. That's usually 8.5 inches. Okay, I'm gonna trim the feathers to the same length, and again, push the point of the scissor through the feather and cut here like this. We have to trim about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch on each end of the feather. We're creating tabs so that we can tie the ends of the feathers down. And I just sort of estimate this. You can put a mark on your scissor at the distance that you want to have for your tab. The next step is to put the feathers on, and I start out by unwinding the string, make sure there's no tangles in it. There's no tangles in it. I don't have a mark on there, but if you're doing it, you probably ought to have a mark. So I start the thread by wrapping it once around. I hold it with my thumb. I wrap it once around, crossing over like this, crossing over the first wrap. You see that little X on there? See how it crosses? And you might go a couple times around just to make sure that that's held on there tightly. I always come from around the backside, the dart, this side of the dart when I fletch. If you do it the other way, it makes it more difficult. So the first step is to notice how I'm holding the thread here with my index finger. And then what I do is I put the fletching right on that thread where it's cinched on, and I hold it with my thumb. And then I put the string over the top of that and give it a couple twists, and I pull on it, and I stop about 1/3 of the way around where the next feather is going to be. I'm holding it with my index finger. I'm holding the feather and the thread with my index finger so it doesn't unwind. Put the second feather down and hold it with my thumb, and wrap the thread at least 2 more times around. And I'll stop on the back side of the feather, or the back side of the dart, and put the third feather in. It's halfway between the other 2 feathers, and this time I'll give it several dozen turns, covering the quill. You see how I'm wrapping that around the quill? When I get to the end of all 3 quills, sometimes they don't line up with each other. When it drops off the end, then I'm finished. I'm just going right along. Now I'm going to wrap the feathers up through helically to hold the feathers onto the shaft. I'm holding the dart across my knee, and I'm holding the butt end of the dart against my arm right here. So it's against my knee and against my arm, and that's so I can use this hand to open the feather up. Pop the feather open like that and run the thread through it. Okay, see that? The way I space it out is I follow the same angle that the feather leans back, like that. See how the spaces between the feathers lean back? If you follow that same angle, your fletching will come out really nice and even. It means that as you go through this helically, if you follow that same pattern all the way up, you get a really nice even look to your dart. So you just keep on going little by little. Take it easy, no stress, just slowly but surely wrap it in. You can't make too many mistakes here because you can just undo it. You haven't put the glue on yet, so if you want to, you can go back. If this doesn't look right to you, you can just go right back and get it. One of the things that I want to caution you against doing is accidentally wrapping the feather so that it pushes down like this. That doesn't look right. See how I have you want this thread to be all the way back like this and tight against the quill. See how it's down at the bottom of the quill? Keep tension on the thread. My feathers aren't exactly straight, so when I get to the very end here, I'll straighten them out. And I'm now down at the tab end. So I'll just take this opportunity to straighten the things out, make sure everything looks correct. That looks good. Turn it a third of a turn. You want the feathers to be parallel to each other and evenly spaced. Hold the thread so it comes off the tip of my thumb. And the reason I do that is so my thumb pushes the feather out of the way, so I can get the, see how my thumb pushes the feather out of the way? Pushes the feather right out of the way, and I can whip that thread around the tabs. And just keep on going slowly but surely around and around. So at this point we have to tie a knot, and I'm going to be making a knot. I believe this knot is called a timber hitch. So I make a loop by going over my finger like this. I come around the shaft and over here like this, and I just pick up that thread and I go around the top of that loop several times like this. 3 or 4 times, sometimes 5 times, and then cinch it up like this. And pulling it really tightly back and forth. So now I'm going to just make sure that the feather is on nice. It seems to be pretty good. At this stage I'll snip off this little piece of extra thread. And it's almost done, except for putting the glue on. Okay, the next step is to glue the feathers down with the school glue. Make sure you have a nice pointy nozzle. You want it to be able to come out in a nice thin line like that. So I apply some school glue here, here, and here, and smear it around with my index finger. And then again here, here, and here. Again, smear it around with your index finger. And then this is the important part. The quill has 2 sides to it. There's one side that's shiny and I don't know, it doesn't have any porosity to it. The other side has been sanded off or cut off and it's somewhat porous, and that's the side that you want to put the glue on. And the reason I use a pointy glue applicator is for this reason. I put the glue on just like this, very lightly. I don't squeeze the tube very much at all. This is where neatness counts. You want to put the glue on one time and one time only and get it on there just perfect. Not too much and not too little. No stress. Just put it on. Turn it in a third of a turn. I'm going in between the threads where they go around. And I'm squeezing it right in between the wood and the bottom of that feather so that it makes a connection between the two. So the next step is to trim the feathers, and I'll show you how to do that. I hold the back of the dart like this, and I'll cut the feather off. I like to keep about an inch or inch and a quarter of fletching here. If you trim this top edge off, all nice and even and parallel up to about the last third, and then when you get to the last third, then you want to sort of angle it in You see how I made that sort of shield look? I'll do that again 2 more times. So the final step is to put the point on, and I'll do that with a propane torch. So I'm going to heat the ferrule tight up until it just melts a little bit. You want to avoid dripping hot glue on you or anything you want to keep. Just put a little dab will do you. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. Now at this point, I'll take my pliers and I'll hold the point like this. And I'm going to heat it. You don't want to heat it too much. If you heat it till it's red hot, it'll burn the glue. But if you heat it until it's just quite warm, warm enough to create smoke from the oil that's keeping the metal from being rusty, you push it on there like that, and you give it several turns. And I like to turn it around 3 times. And if the glue is bubbling a little bit, you want to make sure that you let that stop before you let go. If the glue is bubbling, that means there's some steam on the inside of the thing. You might pull it open like that and put the glue back in. You want to get that on there really nice and tight. Sometimes I tap it on a little bit with a plier like this. I'll use my glue soak drag to kind of make sure it's nice and clean. Boom. The dart is done. Point is on, feathers on. We can take it out in the yard and shoot it. So that's how we assemble the Thunderbird Atlatl Dart Kit.